Hey guys, in today's tutorial, I'm going to be walking you through the options that you can customize within Toocheke. These options basically control how some of the Toocheke features work and how they are displayed on your website. So right now you're looking at the front end of the website, and this is what we currently have based on the past tutorials that we've been going through. And I'm going to be switching back to the WordPress dashboard, and we will be switching back and forth between the dashboard and the front end so you can just see the changes as they take effect. Okay, so let's dive in. Let's switch over to the dashboard. I'm already logged in, and where you're going to go to is basically go to the Toocheke menu and then click on options. All right, so you'll find a series of options that you can change here, and we're going to go through each and every one of them. So the first option that you will open is the comic display. So this controls if you're going to have a responsive comic display for each of your posts. And what I mean by that is if you want to target different devices for each comic post, this is really good for you. I don't know if you recall from the last one of the previous tutorials, we went through how you could display how you could set up a responsive comic using the customizer. This is the other option that you can use, which is ideal for if you have a comic page layout that has variable panel sizes and variable numbers of panels. Okay, so what you would do is upload two sets of images, one for desktop devices and one for mobile devices, and I'm just going to show you that. So right now, by default, this option here you see here, do you want to have two versions of your comic on each post for desktop users, one for mobile, and one for desktop users, one for mobile device users? It's disabled by default. So if I was to go to my comic page right now, let's see. You know what? Let's switch the layout so you can, for demo purposes, so you can see it in action. So let's switch the layout to a traditional layout. So let's go to Appearance, Home Page Layout, and then switch to this one, and then Publish. All right. Then let's go back to okay, we are back in the options. Now if you go to the front end, so you will notice that you're going to see this version of the comic displayed on all devices. So if I was to change to a mobile device screen, let's go here, the same image would be displayed on a mobile device. So, but what if we had a comic that was that has a like a horizontal layout for desktop devices and a vertical scroll layout for mobile devices? Let me show you how you could do that. So I'm going to use one of the comics that we uploaded previously. So this one. So you see I have a horizontal layout, which is kind of like the newspaper layout, set up here in this rich text editor window. Now we're going to delete this because this first editor window is usually used for the mobile screen devices, to display comics for the mobile screen devices. And then this rich text editor here, label desktop comic editor, this is where you would upload images that will be displayed on desktop devices. Okay, so we're going to basically move this to here. All right, So let's go ahead and delete this. All right, and then add the desktop version of this comic to this desktop comic editor field. So let's do that here. Let's see, can I find it? Let's see. Okay, there it is. All right, so this is what is going to be displayed on the desktop editor. And then for mobile devices, we're basically going to slice up this image based on the panels and then upload them here. You could create a vertical image that has all the panels, but I would advise against that because you want to optimize how fast the page loads up. So if you have a long vertical image, it's going to take a longer time for the reader to see it loading up, as opposed to if you have it sliced up based on the panels, and you would have each panel loading up at a time, and it would give the appearance of the page loading much faster to the reader. I hope that makes sense. So I have already sliced up this image. I can go ahead and upload it. So let me click that and upload files, select, let's see. All right. Okay, there it is. All right, so these are the sliced up images. Let me just upload them. Okay, they're all selected, so let me just insert them into the post. All right, and they're all stacked up. All right, wait, I think they're sorted incorrectly, so let's just delete them again. Let's go ahead and just re-add them again one by one. Let's see, select this one. Okay, let's do that again. Yep, okay. All right, so if I do click on update and go back to the front end of the website and access this comic post, you will notice that it is now showing the default rich text editor images here. All right, so on all devices by default it's showing this. So if I go to responsive design, it's going to show the same version. The reason is we haven't enabled the option to allow for displaying both the desktop version and the mobile version of the comics. So let's go ahead and do that. So to do that, go to the Toocheke and then options. All right, and then the display tab. On the display tab, just click this option over here and click the Save Changes button. All right, and then when I go back and do a refresh, okay, something is wrong. Okay, I think I know. It has something to do with the SSL, if I'm not wrong. Let's go back here. Yep. The URL was missing the SSL, the HTTPS. So let's do an update there. Then switch back again and do a refresh. All right, there you go. Okay, so now this is the desktop version, and then if I switch to a mobile view of the page, okay, I'm going to have to make the same fix, but you can see it's basically showing the mobile view of that comic post. So let me just fix that right quick. Let's go back here. Let's put the S there. S there. I think I've got all of them. Let's see, let's double check. Yep, I think we got everything. All right, and then just click on update. Then do a refresh. There you go. All right, so you have the mobile view of the comic and the desktop view of the comic. So this is great for if you want to kind of optimize your comic posts for both desktop users and mobile device users. Okay, so it's just that simple. So okay, so let's continue going through this. So the ordering option. So basically, this determines how various how the navigation for your comics can be ordered based on different features. So for example, how would you like to order your comics? So this determines how, for example, on the home page, if you go to the home page, if you had, okay, let me just switch this back to, let me switch off this display for demo purposes. Okay, do a refresh. Okay, so for example, if you have a traditional layout, by default it's going to show the latest page, the latest comic post on the home page. And if I had let's see, if I had the webtoon layout, let's see, like this one, you notice this list of comic posts here, it's going to be ordering them in descending order, so from the latest to the oldest. So you can see that in this list of comics here. Now if I wanted to change that, if I wanted the list of comics on the home page listed from the oldest to the newest, or if I had a traditional layout on the home page, I wanted to display the oldest comic first on the home page, this is where you would go and change this option here in the ordering tab. How would you like to order your comics? So let's say I want to change this to be ascending. I click Save Changes. And if I go home, previously by default it's usually ordering the comics in descending order. If I do a refresh, oh, alright, I changed it over to the webtoon layout. Let's see. Yep, you notice that it is ordering them from the oldest comic to the newest comic. If I change it to descending order, click Save Changes, it reverses the order of the comics in the list. If I had a traditional layout, let's go back here. Right, let's refresh and then change this to ascending order. So right now it's showing the latest comic on the home page, and if I do a refresh after I've changed it to ascending order, it's showing the first comic, the oldest comic in the archive. All right, hope that makes sense. So so the other options here that you can change, I'll just go quickly through them. So let's say you want to change the ordering of the carousel navigation for the webtoon layout. Let me just show you that quickly. Let's change this to webtoon layout. Okay. All right. So, and then if I click on this comic, so this slider, this carousel that allows you to navigate through each comic. So it orders these comics in either descending or ascending. You can order them in either ascending or descending order. By default, it is ordered by in descending order, but you can change that. So let's go ahead and change that. So let's just switch, put that in, and click Save Changes. And you notice it has changed it into the ascending order. And if I want to change it back to descending, it changes the order of the thumbnails in the carousel. All right, I hope that makes sense. All right, so it's just that simple. Clicking a chapter, which comic would you like to navigate to first? All right, so for webtoon layouts, or if you're in a chapters page, for example, here you will see the thumbnail image or the cover for that chapter. All right, by default, when you click on the chapter, it's going to take you to, I believe it's going to take you to the first comic. No, yeah. Let's see. Let's go back here. All comics. So chapter 1. Yeah, it's going to take, by default, it's going to take you to the latest comic in that chapter. All right. So if I go to chapter 1, comic number 2 is the latest in that chapter. And so we can change that if we wanted to have the first comic show up when you click on a chapter. Just go to Options, Ordering, and then click on All List, and then Save Changes. All right. So if I go home and click on chapter 1, notice it has taken me to comic number 1, which is the first comic in that chapter. So the same thing happens with on the collections option. You can change the ordering for each in terms of which comic shows up first when you click on the collection. So, and then the other thing that you may want to consider also is for the series, how you would order them on the home page. So you have this series ordering over here. So it's showing series 2 and series 1. And I believe by default it's showing them in descending order. So if I want to show them in ascending order, let's click on that and click Save Changes. There you go. You notice it has changed. The series 1 is the first series being shown, and series 2 is the second series being shown on the home page. Okay, so that's it for ordering. Our archive. So the archive is basically a list of all the comics in your WordPress website, and you can access it by going to basically your domain name /comic. All right, so if I just type in comic, you will see a list of all the comics that are currently in your website. And right now I have this layout where basically it's showing a list of all the comics with the thumbnail and the title and the date that it was published on. Now, if I wanted to change that, you have the various layout options available. So let's say I wanted to change it to a plain text list. All right, you can just select that and then Save Changes, and then it will just show a plain text list. All right. If I wanted to show a calendar instead, all right, with a calendar that is highlighting the dates which have comic posts, so I just click Save Changes. I can just do that. All right. and then I can go through the months, and I can navigate through the dates that have comic posts. All right. If I wanted to view a gallery grid on the archive page instead, all right, so it would just display the gallery with the thumbnail images for the comic post. All right, so you can feel free to play around with the layout options that you have available here. All right. Okay, let's just switch back to the default. All right, navigation. So for navigation, this basically you have a bunch of options that you can use to control how the navigation buttons are displayed, what they're linked to, and even control how if you can have your own custom images for each of the buttons that are displayed. So let's go through some of those options. So you can see, let's go to the home page here. All right, so you can see the comic navigation buttons for the webtoon layout right at the bottom of the screen here. To the bottom right, if I was to switch this to a traditional layout, you notice that the navigation buttons just appear below the comic post. All right, so let's play around with changing up some of the options here. All right. Okay, let's go home. All right. So, do you want your comic archive as an infinite scroll with no previous next button on the home page? So if you do not want your readers to kind of navigate through a previous, next, first, last button option, and you just want an endless scroll appearing on the home page where they can kind of navigate through your comic posts, this is a good option to consider enabling on your comic page, on your home page. So let's just go ahead and do that. Click Save Changes, and then refresh. And basically it's just going to display an endless loop of all your comic posts. All right. So, and your readers don't have to navigate through your comic archive using the previous, next, first, last buttons. All they have to do is just continuously scroll through your home page. All right, so, and that provides for a fun way of just going through a comic archive. So especially if you have like a large comic archive with hundreds of comic posts. All right. Okay, let's disable that. The random button basically is this button over here. So you can basically access a random comic post within the comic archive. So if I click on this, it's just going to take me to a random comic post. All right. I can decide I do not want that displayed and just click Save Changes. All right, and that's going to hide the random button. All right. If I want it displayed, I can click on that. If I want the archive button displayed here, basically it will take, once I click on it, it's going to take me to the archive landing page for comics. Let's go ahead and enable that. Do a refresh. So I'll have the random button there, and then this is the archive page. If I click on it, it's going to take me to the archive page, the landing page. Okay, so a few more options. Do you want to display a bookmark button? So if you want your readers to be able to bookmark where they stop reading, where the comic they last read, and so that they can easily come back to it and read it at another time. So this is a fun feature to kind of enable. So let's just go ahead and enable that. If I click Save Changes, all right. So here's the option. It'll show up here at the bottom of the page, and if I click on it, this page is going to be bookmarked. All right, and if I do a refresh, you notice the bookmark will now show up in the navigation bar here at the top. And if I was to go to the home page, all right, and then click on it, and this bookmark navigation item, it'll take me to the last place, the last comic that I read. All right, if I want to remove the bookmark, I can just uncheck this, and it's just that simple. And then I can just refresh and the bookmark disappears from the navigation bar. All right, let's see, do you want to go to the next comic on clicking the comic? All right, so if you want to provide an extra navigation option by clicking on the image for the comic post. So if I click on this comic post, if you want for readers to kind of, once they click on each comic image, it takes them to the next comic post, you can enable this feature and then just click Save Changes. Then if I do a refresh, then I click on the comic image, it's just going to take me to the next comic. All right, so it saves you the trouble of having to click on the buttons, the navigation buttons at the bottom of the comic page. All right, okay, so let's disable that for now. Do you want to display comic navigation buttons above the comic? So this only applies to the traditional page layout. So if you have a comic page layout that is really long, like this one, for example, you may want to give your readers the option to quickly access the comic navigation buttons at the top of the screen and at the bottom of the screen. So at the bottom of the comic post. So let's just see that in action. So let's just enable that. Click the Save Changes button, and that should add it right on the top of the screen here. There you go. So this is ideal for situations where you have a comic page layout that is really long, and yeah, it just gives you extra options for your readers. All right, let's disable that. Okay, let's see, do you want to display chapter navigation buttons? So if you have your comic posts split up into chapters, you may want also to have your readers quickly access each of the chapters and navigate through them. All right, so you can enable that option here. Let's go ahead and enable display comic. Sorry, wait a minute. Okay, yeah, all right. So do you want to display chapter navigation buttons? So just click on this option. And let's also display, do you want to display a drop down of the chapters below the comic navigation? Let's do that here. And click Save Changes. And do a refresh. Ooh. All right, I'm not sure what the error is over here, but you can disregard this for now. But let's see, but you notice that the drop down is being displayed here for the chapter, and if I was to click on it, I will go to chapter 2, and it will take me to the first comic within chapter 2. All right, go to chapter 1, it will take me to the first comic within chapter 1. All right, and then you have also this extra navigation buttons also here for chapters. So if I want to go to chapter 2, the first comic in chapter 2, I can click on that. If I wanted to go to the previous chapter, I can just click on this button over here. All right. So it just gives you, so you have two options for your readers that allows them to kind of easily navigate through chapters. All right. So let us disable those two options and click save and go home. All right. Let's also disable the bookmark feature. Okay, so do you want to disable comic navigation? So by default, if you were to click on the keyboard, you cannot see it now because I'm entering on my keyboard. The arrow next and the previous arrow and the next arrow, like this one and this one on your keyboard. If you enter them, if you click on them, they're going to kind of navigate through your comic posts, so without having to use your mouse. So if you go click on that, you notice that I'm able to navigate through the comic archive. Now, if I wanted to disable that feature, this is what you would enable or disable. If I just click on Save Changes, if I do a refresh, and if I try and click on the arrow left or arrow right, nothing happens. All right, if I want to enable it again, do a refresh, now the keyboard keys are enabled again. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Do you want your readers to scroll past the header when navigating through the comics? Okay. Let's see how best I can so let's see. So to demo this, I'm going to change the layout. Let's change the layout. Let's see. Appearance, customize, page layout, and let's use this one with a hero header section at the top, publish. All right, and then close. Now if I do a refresh, now you notice that there's the header section, which is taking up a large section of the screen. Now if I scroll, if I had, let's say, let's go home. Okay, let's go. Yeah, this is a good example. Now, if I was to scroll to the bottom of the page and clicked on the previous screen, it would scroll right to the top of the page and display the hero section first. What if I wanted the reader to automatically scroll to the top of the comic post instead of scrolling to the hero section, especially if you had a large hero section at the top of the page? All right, so if I click next, it's going to scroll right to the top of the page. What if I wanted it to scroll like right here? All right, which makes for a better reading experience. Okay, now to enable that feature, you basically just click on this option over here. Do you want to get readers to scroll past the header when navigating through the comics? So let's just click on that. All right, let's do a refresh. All right, and then let's scroll through this and then just click on this. You notice that it takes you right to the top of the comic post section instead of going to the header section. All right, if I click on next, it's going to take me right to the top of the comic page instead of going to the header section. All right, okay, so if I disable that, I do refresh, navigate through that, it's going to take me to the top of the page. All right, okay, so the final thing I'm going to show you in the navigation tab is you can add in, so you see this navigation buttons below the comic post. You can add in your own custom buttons that are displayed here. Let me show you how you would do that. So by default, it's going to show the Toocheke buttons. Let's say I wanted to display my own buttons, my own custom buttons. So you would uncheck this, and then you would go ahead and upload your image. So let's choose to upload what is going to be for the first, previous, next, and latest button. So let's do that. Let's choose an image, then upload files, and select. Let's see, I'd already created some images that I'm going to use, so let's upload all of them. Okay, so this is going to be fast. No, this is going to be the next, previous, latest, and fast. Let's choose. Okay, hold on. What am I? Okay, for the fast button, let's choose an image for the fast button. It's going to be this one. Choose this image. And then for the previous button, let's choose this one. For the next button, let's choose this one. For the latest button, let's choose this one. And then just scroll to the bottom of the page and click Save Changes. And if I go to the home page and do a refresh, you'll notice that it is now displaying images, your customized images, instead of the default Toocheke buttons. All right. Now the reason you're seeing this right now is because I haven't uploaded an image for the random button and as well as for the archive button. All right. So, all right. Now, if I wanted to switch back to seeing the Toocheke buttons instead, I can just, let's see, just scroll here with that. Let's see the option. Do you want to use the default navigation buttons? Let's check that and then click Save Changes. And the default button should show up again. All right. Okay. So social sharing. This basically determines which buttons that you want to enable for your comic post page to allow your readers to share on social media platforms. So for example, if you wanted Facebook, Twitter, let's say Reddit, Threads, Toocheke, and let's say if you wanted to also give your readers the option to kind of copy the URL for your comic post and they can paste it wherever, let's say to an email, just enable this, click Save Changes. So if I go to the front end of the website and do refresh, all those options are being displayed here. All right, so the Facebook, if I wanted to share, this is going to load up the Facebook sharing option. Twitter, it's going to show for X, it's going to show the sharing option for X. For Reddit, the same thing. I would have to log in, and Threads and Toocheke and so on. For the copy option, I just need to click on this. So it's going to copy the link, and I will just have to paste it to wherever. If I just pasted it, it has pasted the URL that I'm currently viewing. All right, I hope that makes sense. Okay, support links. So if you want your readers to support you through various donation or subscription platforms like Patreon, PayPal, Substack, Ko-fi, Kickstarter, if you have a Kickstarter campaign, this is where you would enter the links to each of those platforms. So let's go ahead and add a few. Let me just add an example here. Let's see, HTTP. let's see, a PayPal also. Add page here. And this is going to do is basically add these links below every comic post. All right, so if I just click Save Changes and switch over to the home page, to the comic post page, and do refresh, you notice the Kickstarter link is added there, the Patreon link, and the PayPal link has been added there. Alright, and if you click on any of them, it will take me to whichever link I put there. So of course you would link this, let's say, to your Kickstarter campaign link. For the Patreon, you would link it to your your Patreon landing page in PayPal, or you would link it to your PayPal account page. Okay, so that's it. Analytics. So with Toocheke, you have the options of collecting and displaying different analytics. So you can give your readers the ability to, let's say, like a comic post, and it will display the number of likes that you have so far. You can also display the number of comments on a comic post, and you can also display the number of views, all right, which is all automatically collected on your website. So let's enable each and every one of these analytics. So let's enable those and click Save Changes. If I click on refresh, you notice that it displays the like option, the number of people who have viewed this post, and then the number of comments. All right, so if I like this, all right, so it's going to show that so far we have 1 like on this comic post. All right, and navigate away and go back again, it's going to show there's 1 like. And if I was to comment on this post, let's say Fox, test 1, and post a comment. Alright, it's not going to show up right away because it has not been approved. It's awaiting moderation. So let's go over to the dashboard, do a refresh. There it is. And just approve this comment. Go back to the front end, do a refresh. There you go. So you notice now we have 1 comment showing up. Alright. So let's go back to the options again. Let's see, where were we? Oh, the analytics. All right. So top 10. So with the top 10, so with Toocheke, you can basically create a top 10 page, which basically displays the top 10 most viewed comics. And then with this option, basically you can change the layout of how the top 10 comics are displayed, whether it's in a thumbnail list or a gallery grid. So let's go ahead and just add in the top 10 page so you can see how that would work. So let's go ahead and go to the pages, then add new page. Let's give this the name top 10. And all you have to do is, you see this template section here, instead of the default template, select the top 10 comics page template. This is a template that is provided by Toocheke, and then click publish. All right. Okay, so if I was to go over to this page, on the front end, you notice that it displays the top 10 comics. All right, and the default layout, now if I go back here to Toocheke options, top 10, the default layout is the thumbnail list, which is what you're seeing right now. If I change this to the gallery grid and save changes and do a refresh, it's just going to show a gallery grid of the top 10 comics. Okay, if I go back to the thumbnail list and click save changes, it's going to show the list again. All right. Okay, series. All right, so the series tab has a bunch of options available. So let's go to the first option. So let's go to the home page. All right, let's say you had a traditional layout or a webtoon layout. You can override the home page layout by just displaying a list of series on the home page and the blog post section at the bottom of the page. So let's just go ahead and do that. So click on this and then click save changes. And what this is going to do is override the layout on the home page and just display all the series that you have in the system. So if I do a refresh, there you go. You will see all the series that are in the system and the blog posts that are currently on your website. And if I click on each of the series, it's just going to take me to the landing page for the series. There you go. All right, let's disable that. Well, no, let's let's disable this. Just so I can just show you the other options. So let's go back here. Home. All right. So do you want to display a list of all comics from multiple series on the home page? So this would work. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So I would need to enable to override the series option. So let's do that. Okay, on the home page, so we have this. So this option is going to only work if you have the series option enabled, the override option enabled on the home page. Now, if I wanted to display a list of all the comics on this home page, the series homepage, let's call it the series homepage, I can select this option and click Save Changes. If I do a refresh, all right, it didn't work the way anticipated. Let's see why. See, customize homepage layout. Okay, that is why. So you need to have this enabled for the webtoon layout, not the traditional layout. Okay. So if I do a refresh, the comic, the list of comics will be displayed on the home page. If I go back here and if I disable this and click Save Changes and do a refresh, that is going to hide the list of comics on the home page. So this is only going to work if you have one of the webtoon layouts enabled. All right. Okay. Do you want to display a list of regular blog posts on the series landing page? So again, this is going to work only on the webtoon layout. So if I go to the series landing page, it's going to display the list of comics within that series, and then a few, like the comic series section, the latest chapter section, and the latest collection section. Now, if you wanted to show blog posts in this section also for every series page, let me just take you to series 2. All right, so you notice that these are the sections that are displayed. I just have to click on this option and then click Save Changes, and that should display the blog post. There you go. If I click on series 1, the blog post for your website will be displayed at the bottom of the page. Okay. Let's see this. series display on the home page. So it will display on the home page. Please note that. Okay, so this applies to if you have the traditional layout. So if I was to switch back to the traditional layout, and you would have to make sure that this series override is disabled. All right, so if I was to disable that option, and I had selected one of the traditional layouts, let's go back here, homepage layout, traditional, click publish. Okay, so typically for traditional layout, let's go back here, homepage, it would display the latest comic or the first comic depending on the way you've ordered your comic archive. It would display the latest comic irrespective of the series in the series in your website. All right, now if you wanted to display the latest comic of a specific series on your home page, this is the option that you would use. You would select, let's say I want to display the latest comic from the second series, and then I just click save changes. If I do refresh, now it's showing the latest comic from series 2. Okay, if I click on series 1, it's going to show the latest comic from series 1. All right, if I select no series, it's going to remove that option entirely. Okay, all right, so we're moving along here to the discussion tab. All right, so as you have noticed, as I was talking about commenting, you can comment on each comic post, but you notice, let's say if I go to the next comic, I can comment on a comic post. But on the home page, you will notice that there is no commenting feature. Now, this is a quirk of WordPress. By default, it doesn't enable commenting on the home page. So to enable commenting on the home page, this is the option that you would enable. All right, so to do that, just click on that and click on save changes. And then if I do on refresh, the commenting option is enabled on the home page. All right, if I click disable, save changes, it's now disabled on the home page. All right, blog. So this basically, the blog tab basically controls how the list of blogs are displayed either on the landing page, on the home page, or if you want to display the blog post for a comic on the webtoon layout. So first of all, let's say you wanted to ensure that, let's say you wanted to hide blog posts on your home page, irrespective of whichever layout you're using. So right now, if I go to the home page, you'll have the blog post displayed here, regular blog post. So let's hide that. Select that, click save changes. That will hide all the regular blog posts on your website. All right. If I switch on to the webtoon layout, publish, do refresh, you'll notice that the blog posts are no longer showing at the bottom of the page. If I click on that and click save changes, the blog posts now are showing up at the bottom of the page. All right. Now, the difference between the traditional layout and the webtoon layout for the comic page is that let's let me just demo that right now. So let's change, let's see. Okay, so let's change the comic here, all comics. Okay, let me go ahead and add in like a blog post for this comic. Okay, so you can choose to add in any text, maybe describing the motivation or the inspiration for this comic post, whatever you want, or promotional material in this in the comics blog post editor section. So if I add that in and click update, and if I go to appearance, customize, and choose the traditional layout, let's see. Okay, you would notice that it is going to display the comic post. The blog post for that comic will be displayed below the comic. If I navigate through and see the comic page, the blog post for this comic is going to be displayed right below it. However, if I switch over to a webtoon layout and click publish and refresh the comic post page, you'll notice that the blog post is not displayed by default. The blog post for this comic. If I wanted that displayed, I would then go to this option over here in blog. Do you want to display blog post on webtoon layout? Just click on this and then click save changes, and then click refresh, and the blog post will be displayed right below the carousel navigation. Okay, if I do not want it displayed, just click save changes and it's hidden. Okay, all right. Age. So if you have a not safe for work comic, and you want to make sure that you verify the ages of your readers, this is the option that you can enable. So it's going to display a pop-up window asking the readers to verify that they are over 18. So let's just see how that will look. So click on that and then save changes. And if I do a refresh, so it's just going to show this pop-up window, verify your age, you must be 18 years or older to continue browsing. All right, you can click and say yes. All right, and then moving forward, you will not be shown that pop-up window. All right, okay, and let's just remove that for now. Language. Okay, so language basically is for if you have, let's say if you have a bilingual comic, for example, if you have, let's say, a French version and an English version of the comic, you can basically enable the switcher that will allow you to switch between the languages for the comic. So let me just show you how that would look like. So let's see, how do we do this? Okay, so let's edit one of these comics here. So the default editor for your comic post, so you have the mobile editor window here, you have the desktop editor here, you have the blog post editor here, and then you'll have extra fields right at the bottom here for your second language. This is where you would add in the title in the second language for this comic post, the mobile version of the comic post in the second language, and the desktop version of the second language. All right. Right now, I've disabled having a responsive layout for the comic. So we're just going to upload in the, let's see, I think it should be in the mobile screen. Yes, on this mobile screen here. All right, let's upload a different image here. Let's see, add media, and let's add this image here. Okay. So this is going to function as our second language of this comic. But I'm just showing this for demo purposes. Of course, it will be basically the same image, but in a different language. Let's click update. And then what you would do is go back to Toocheke, and then options, and then language, and then click on this option to enable the bilingual comic switching button here. And I click save changes, and if I go to the front end, if I click refresh, if I go here, this is the comic post B. All right, so you notice now that there's a language switcher here. All right, and if I click on it, it's going to switch to the second language, the second version of the comic. And if I switch again, it's going to show the first version of the comic. All right, so this is ideal if you have a bilingual comic. All right, so let's disable that. All right, the images tab. All right, so this is if you want your readers to have the option of seeing a larger version of the image while they're browsing through your comic archive. So if I enable this and click save changes, all right, and do a refresh. All right, okay, so to have this option enabled, you would have to make sure that the comic post is linking to the image, is linking to the media file. So let me just show you that. So all comics, then let's edit this comic post. Then let's make sure that there's no link. If I was just to view the text tab here, you would notice it is just showing the image. All right, so let's say I want, whenever I click on this image, it shows a larger version of the comic image. Let's say it's a really big image. Let's click on edit. And right now by default, it's set to link to nothing at all. Let's say it's set to link to the media file. All right, and then click update. And then if I switch over to the text, you will notice it has changed the HTML code and added in the link to the image. All right, and if I click update and go to the front end of the website, if I click here, it basically allows me to enlarge the image. Okay. All right, and if I disable this option, images, that is going to basically override and remove the link option on this page. So if I do a refresh, even though the image has a link, you will notice the image has been removed. I mean, the link to the image has been removed, and I can no longer click on it. All right. Okay, so that's it. The final thing I'm going to show you is the RSS feed. So if you're familiar with RSS feed, this is a way you can give your readers the ability to be notified whenever you post a new comic or a new blog post. So by default, the way Toocheke is set up, you have two feeds. You have the regular feed, the main feed, which has only regular blog posts, and then you have a comic feed, RSS feed. So let me just show you how that would look like. So the main feed, which would be at yourdomainname.com/feed. Let me just open a different window. So it would just show the blog post. Right now I have just one blog post, which is this Hello World blog post. All right, which is this post over here. This one. And then if I wanted to see the comic feed, I would go to yourdomainname.com/comic/feed. And then it displays basically all the comics in the feed. Now, what if you just wanted to consolidate both your regular posts and your comic posts on the main feed? That's on the yourdomain.com/feed. To do that, you would just come here, click this option, click Save Changes, and that should be added in. So all that does is it basically consolidates all your comic posts and the regular blog posts. All right, if I disable this and click Save Changes and do a refresh, it's just going to show the Hello World regular blog post. All right, and that's it. Another long tutorial. You should now be all set to take full control of your WordPress website between using the customizer, which I talked about in the last tutorial, and then using the options feature in Toocheke. And you can basically make your website uniquely yours. Feel free to experiment and have fun tweaking things as much as you want, and we'll talk to you in the next tutorial.